Come on! How's it going, everybody? Thanks for joining me again for another game review. This is the Broken Controller Club, and my name is Ed, and I'm the host until further notice. I really wanted to get my review of the new Resident Evil Village DLC, Shadows of Rose, out sooner, but got a little busy. But here we are, alone, together again, like it's supposed to be. So warnings in advance, this is going to be kind of spoilery. Shadows of Rose basically takes place after Village ends and leads up to the epilogue where you see Rose Winters visiting her dad Ethan Winters' grave. It's a linear adventure, and by the end credits, I was interested to learn more about her and what she's doing. That is to say that as long as the game starring her doesn't become some girl power, I don't need no man trash like so many other franchises have become now. The story goes that the year is 2037, and Rose, now 16 or 17, is an outcast because her powers manifest at the most awkward of times, and it's alienated her from any possible friends at school. Because of that, she wants to find a way to get rid of them, and she sees them more as a curse than anything else. Apparently, whining is hereditary because she complains about as much as her dad did in Village, though I was less irritated with it this time around and just rolled my eyes. I think it's because it's a 16-year-old girl complaining and not a grown man doing it, so it seems more normal to me. Anyway, this guy she knows named Kay tells her of a way that she may be able to get rid of her powers, but it involves mentally linking with a piece of the black god fungus found from the village and finding a purifying crystal inside it that'll make her normal. If you've never played the game, then this all sounds retarded, but welcome to Resident Evil. The only way it gets more ridiculous is if you watch the Netflix show. Please don't do that. So the inside of the fungus is kind of like a greatest hits selection of areas in Village, with Rose starting in Castle Dimitrescu, then moving on to the house where that creepy-ass doll boss Donna Beneviento is at. She first appears in the dungeons and you take control of her from there. You'll notice the normal creepy stuff in these dungeon cells like blood, chains, metal masks that look like they belong in a totally different type of dungeon. My personal favorites were the toilet box things in the corners of the cells. Like, check this one out here, which was most likely used by someone who had recently had lunch at Golden Corral. It's very early on that she notices tons of dead bodies that look like her, as well as some who are still alive and they're getting chased and getting killed by these monsters called face eaters. Who are the copies? What are they all doing here? If this were me, I'd be staring at all the multiverse variants of myself who were beat to death after shooting their mouths off one too many times. These copies are all getting killed by an evil version of the Duke, who's wearing some eyes wide shut mask and sends the face eaters after our Rose, I guess realizing that she's the real one because none of the copies have any powers and she does. Now I need to say this up front, or maybe less up front because I've been yammering for a while. If you think this game will have as much action as Village, you're going to be disappointed. You spend around half the game running from stuff or sneaking around unarmed, and while it's disappointing because I like killing monsters, it does make sense because she's just a young girl, and despite what Hollywood says, she can't go toe-to-toe with these guys most of the time. You'll empty half a clip from your handgun into one of the face eaters as it is, unless you're good enough to drop one with no less than 4 headshots. The game veers much closer to traditional survival horror, which should be exciting for OG fans to hear. The enemies are faster than you'd expect as well, and if you stand there trying to shoot them thinking that you're gonna kill it before it gets to you, then you're gonna have a bad time. Avoiding unnecessary fights will help you conserve ammo, but a lot of this game takes place in hallways, and that means stunning enemies with a single shot to get around them or baiting them into attacking so you can hopefully get around them. As a side note, I beat this on standard difficulty, and after making some stupid mistakes and doing a terrible job of aiming, I was still able to get through it. Seriously, some of this footage will probably look like I've never used a controller before, and I don't know what happened. I wasn't even drinking when I played this. House Beneviento ups the creep factor to 11 as you're solving more doll-related puzzles, and you'll also get chased by these super creepy mannequins who walk after you like David Byrne and Talking Heads when you're not facing them. Later on, as you're escaping from the house, you're going to be shrunk down so that these mannequins are more giant-sized and chasing you, and you'll also get chased around by dolls with these blades that stab the hell out of you like the Arachnids in Starship Troopers. Getting killed by any of these things is actually pretty gruesome too. Like, I thought the giant fetus thing chasing Ethan during the main game was creepy enough, but Capcom really outdid themselves with the dolls this time around. If all this sounds daunting, then you'll be happy to know that Rose isn't in this alone. She gets help from a mysterious entity only known as Michael, who writes in a fancy gold-colored font. And honestly, if you have even half your brain working, you're going to know right away who this is. In addition to Michael randomly dropping hints, first aid bottles, and ammunition. By the way, if you can materialize a handgun and ammo, I don't understand why you can't also materialize a machine gun or a rocket launcher or something like that. Rose will get these flasks that augment her powers and let her do things like stun enemies and turn these flower things into ash and open up more areas. They're not overpowered, but having the options are nice and gives the encounters some variety. The fight with the final boss lets Rose become whatever the Resident Evil version of Super Saiyan is, and she can reflect projectiles back, she can teleport dodge, and launch these big, branch, tree things out of the ground. But it's a pretty fun fight. So what else is included in the DLC? Well, as you probably noticed throughout the whole video, you can play the game in third-person mode now, which helps those of us who've already beaten the game once play it again and helps it feel a little bit more fresh. I have to admit that I think it's a little crummy that you have to pay for this, but then again, it's 2022 and every facet of our existences is monetized now. Hell, they want to put ads in the sky, and after that I'm sure it won't be long before our dreams will probably have ads in them like on Futurama. Also included are 2 new characters to play as in Mercenaries. Heisenberg, no, not that one, and Lady Dimitrescu. Now I would love to show you footage of these characters in action, however to play as them, you have to get an A rank in all the stages to unlock Heisenberg, and then you have to also get an S rank in the final mission to unlock the lady. I'm awful at Mercenaries, and for me, the amount of time and skill it takes to not only unlock each stage, but also score high enough to unlock them both would mean that this review would never come out if I waited to release it after getting these. So in that respect, it's also kind of crap in my opinion to have to pay to unlock just the opportunity to earn these characters. And honestly, I'm not asking for an advantage, I kind of just want to suck with 2 new characters. So do I think this DLC is worth the $20 price? My answer is this. If you're going to get mileage out of the 2 new Mercenaries characters, the third-person mode is something that you're going to use while unlocking all the other content, and you want to find out what happens next after Village, then yeah, I think it's worth buying. The story in Shadows of Rose isn't bad by any means, but it's predictable, and in the first cutscene you'll know that this entire story is about a girl who's learning to accept herself and also learn to grieve the loss of never knowing her father, a guy who loved her enough to fight like hell and sacrifice his life to give her a chance at living hers. The interactions between Ethan and Rose in this are emotional, and if you're a father, this story will hit home at points. To me, the story gave Ethan some more depth that I felt was kind of missing from Village. The writing shows respect for the relationship between father and child, and while I probably won't play through the DLC again, I felt good about the 4 hours I spent with it when the credits rolled. That's all I've got for today's review. Links to the merch shop, my podcast, and more are in the description. And if you enjoyed the video, then liking and subscribing are always free too. Until next time. Congratulations! You're one of an elite few to make it to the end of the video. Reward yourself by hitting the round subscribe button in the middle, and then check out the other goodies I've got and the links next to it.